Oh, anyway, so they never say to you, what does his voice sound like? This is the fourth part of the Little Prince. So they never say to you, what does his voice sound like? What games does he love best? Does he collect 23, does he collect butterflies? Instead they demand, how old is he? How many brothers has he? How much does he weigh? How much money does his father make? Only from these figures do they think they have learned anything about him. If you were to say to the grown-ups, I saw a beautiful house made of rosy brick with geraniums in the windows and doves on the roof, they would not be able to get any idea of that house at all. You would have to say to them, I saw a house that cost £4,000, and they would exclaim, ah, what a pretty house. That is, just so, you might say to them, the proof that the little prince existed is that he was charming, that he laughed, and that he was looking for a sheep. If anybody wants a sheep, that is a proof that he exists. And what good would it do to tell them that? They would shrug their shoulders and treat you like a child. But if you said to them, the planet he came from is asteroid B/612 or hyphen, then they would be convinced and leave you in peace from their questions. They are like that. One must not hold it against them. Children should always show great forbearance towards grown-up people. But certainly for us who understand life, figures are a matter of indifference. I should have liked to begin this story in the fashion of the fairy tales. I should have liked to say, once upon a time there was a little prince who lived on a planet that was scarcely any bigger than himself, and who had need of a friend. To those who understand life, that would have given a much greater air of truth to my story, for I did not want anyone to read my book carelessly. I have suffered too much grief in setting down these memories. 6 years have already passed since my friend went away from me with his sheep. If I try to describe him there, it is to make sure that I shall not forget him. To forget a friend is sad. Not everyone has had a friend, and if I forget him, I may become like the grown-ups who are no longer interested in anything but figures. It is for that purpose again that I have bought a box of paints and some pencils. It is hard to take up drawing again at my age, when I have never made any pictures except those of the boa constrictor from the outside and the boa constrictor from the inside. Well, anyway, since I was 6, I shall certainly try to make my portraits as true to life as possible. Just understand, but I am not at all sure of his success. One drawing goes along all right, and another has no resemblance to its subject. I make some errors too in the little prince's height. In one place he is too tall, and in another too short, and I feel some doubts about the colour of his costume. Oh. So I fumble along as best I can, now good, now bad, and I hope generally fair to middling. I was rather worried that the recording would stop, because I was pressing something that kept on going round and round and round. What was that? Ah, it was the tab key. In certain more important details I shall make mistakes also, but that is something that will not be my fault. I suppose not. My friend never explained anything to me. He thought perhaps that I was like himself, but I, alas, do not know how to see sheep through the walls of boxes. Perhaps I'm a little like the grown-ups. I have had to grow old. As each day passed, I would learn in our talk something about the little prince's planet, his departure from it, his journey. The information would come very slowly, as it might chance to fall from his thoughts. It was in this way that I heard, on the 3rd day, about the catastrophe of the baobabs. This time, once more, I had the sheep to thank for it, for the little prince asked me abruptly, as if seized by a grave doubt, "It is true, isn't it, that sheep eat little bushes?" No, they don't. Yes, that is true. Ah, I am glad. Did not understand why it was so important that sheep should eat little bushes, but the little prince added, then it follows that they also eat baobabs. I pointed out to the little prince that baobabs were not little bushes, but on the contrary, trees as big as castles, and that even if it took a whole herd of elephants, made the little prince laugh. Oh, no, hang on. If it took a little with him, the herd would not eat up one single baobab. The idea of the herd of elephants made the little prince laugh. We would have to put them on top of each other, he said, but he made a wise comment. Before they grow so big, the baobabs start out by being little. That is strictly correct, I said, but why do you want the sheep to eat the little baobabs? Ah, he answered me at once. Oh, come, as if he was speaking of something that was self-evident, and I was obliged to make a great mental effort to solve this problem, without any assistance. Indeed, as I learned, there were on the planet where the little prince lived, as on all planets, good plants and bad plants. In consequence, there were good seeds from good plants and bad seeds from bad plants, but seeds are invisible. They sleep deep in the heart of the earth's darkness, until some one among them is seized with the desire to awaken. Then this little seed will stretch itself and begin timidly at first to push a charming little sprig inoffensively upward toward the sun. If it is only a sprout of radish or the sprig of a rose bush, one will let it grow wherever it might wish. But when it is a bad plant, one must destroy it as soon as possible, the very first instant that one recognizes it. Now there were some terrible seeds on the planet. That was the home of the little prince, and these were the seeds of baobab. The soil of the planet was infested with them. A baobab is something you will never be able to get rid of if you attend to it too late. It spreads over the entire planet, and it bores clear through it with its roots, and if the planet is too small and the baobabs are too many, they split it in pieces. It is a question of discipline, the little prince said to me later on. When you've finished your own toilet in the morning, then it is time to attend to the toilet of your planet. Just so, with the greatest care, you must see to it that you pull up regularly all the baobabs, the very first moment when they can be distinguished from the rose bushes which they so resemble so closely in their earliest youth. It is very tedious work, the little prince added, but very easy. And one day he said to me, you ought to make a beautiful drawing so that the children where you live can see exactly how all this is. It would be very useful to them if they were to travel some day. Sometimes, he added, there is no harm in putting off a piece of work until another day. But when it is a matter of baobabs, that always means a catastrophe. I knew a planet that was inhabited by a lazy man. He neglected 3 little bushes. And I shall leave it there and do the 5th part.